All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Finance Committee for Union County Public Schools. Today is Tuesday, February 25th. We have all committee members present. I'd like to call this meeting to order, starting with the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, I need a motion to approve the meeting minutes from January 28, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, first up is audit contract 2025, Ms. McLam.
So I'm bringing the current year's audit contract to you all for approval. It is about $2,000 higher than it was last year. Last year, our total audit contract was $49,000. This year, it's $51,000. That's about a 4% increase. And they will begin work on compliance in April. So I wanted to bring it to you all now so we could get it.
Shauna, what's our history been on increases? Have we had one in a while, or?
It goes up slightly every year, just because of the additional compliance things that get added from state and federal agencies. When our auditors come in, they audit more than just financials. They do a lot of work related to LGC compliance items as well, and all the different major programs we have. So a lot of it's really related to the size of our school nutrition program and some of our EC funds. So it does, the work does increase every year. So there have been slight increases every year. Normally it's no more than $1,000 to $2,000.
Do we push back at all or no?
I mean, I don't normally, just because it all goes through the LGC. The LGC has to approve. So I can have additional conversations, but with our talks, the amount of work that they do, and they do our ACFA for us, I feel it's comparable to others. But if I can do more research. But
Shauna, how long have we used this firm?
we've had Anderson, Smith and White probably since 2008, 9.
Ooh.
We've had multiple different partners. They've had different partners that come. But we've had the same team come here probably the last 5+ years. The same.
Is there any state statute or any accounting guidelines that requires us to look at another firm every so many years?
There is not. Right now, I would say there's really not very many auditors out there that do this work for school districts. It's hard to find. There's maybe 2 or 3 in the state, and I would say Anderson, Smith and White has, I think they have 60 to 70% of the districts in the state right now that they do audits for.
Is it worth maybe throwing an RFP out there for next year?
Yeah.
We're probably getting close to a timeline where we need to renew, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we can definitely do an RFP next year, see what else is out there, and at least get.
If nothing more, it keeps them honest, right?
For sure.
Shauna, you said that when they bring their team in, do we have like a lead auditor when they come in? Is Adam kind of our go-to person, or?
Adam is a partner with Anderson, Smith and White. So he is the lead auditor. When he comes in, he has 3 to 4 individuals that come with him that help him with compliance and different things at different times.
And how long has he been the lead ever since we were in this contract?
No, we've had at least 2 other of their partners that have been in the district at different times, and he's probably been the lead, like I say, for probably 5 or 6 years. But I'll be glad to do an RFP for our next year and see what the comparison is for others, because I would guess there's probably like I said, maybe 2 others firms in the state that do this work.
Any other questions?
No.
Need a motion to send to the full board.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, next up is, let's see here. Got the audit contract and standard audit contract engagement letter. State budget update.
Amendments and transfers.
Right, I'm sorry. That's why I was missing that.
So I've got two different amendments this time. I've got some state amendments. Most of what is on the state amendment is for summer camp funds and the bonuses that we get for our performance bonuses the state provides for reading, math, and any of the principal bonuses. So the majority of the state amendment is related to that. And then federal funds, we've had a lot of, as you can see, a lot of in and out. We are doing grant year budgeting now for our federal funds. And so keeping up with all of that and the reversions and back and forth that we've had is what you'll see on the second one for federal funds. Are there any
So
questions?
these bonuses, these are all like good guys to the budget, right? I see increase in budget, but that's
Yes.
increase to the positive.
Yes, those are the state funded bonuses that they provide. We get a list, it's all based on their performance, like teachers, it's based on their EVA scores. And the same with the principals, they get bonuses based on their overall school rating.
Under federal funds, the supplies and materials, is that normal? To see a decrease?
Yes, because most of the time, a lot of our federal funds, just like most of our state funds, are used to pay salaries. So anytime we have some set aside for supplies, contracts, and other things. So anytime there's usually a reduction, it's to those kind of ancillary things. Any questions?
Hearing none, I need a motion to send budget amendments and transfer to the full board.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next is informational items. First up is state budget update.
Yeah, so I gave you all an update at the last finance committee meeting. I don't have a lot new to share. I'm not sure if I shared with you all. We still haven't received any idea of what kind of increases that the state's going to propose. Currently, I'm going to use 3% for our certified, which is what we used last year, and 4% for 3% for our non-certified and 4% for our certified. That's the best that I have to go on right now. Historically, that's kind of where they're at with most of the increases that they do, the salary schedules, and then for our non-teaching staff. There is some legislation out there to look at some funding models and some weighted funding for some of our the EC funds we receive statewide. I think EC is a very underfunded program. I think we've talked about that a lot, the funds that we need to support the EC program. So I'm looking to see if we're kind of keeping an eye on some of that to see if it does come through. Having a tiered funding or doing something different with a lot of our funding models, I think is probably a good way for us to start going, because the current funding model, I don't know, really funds the needs of every student in every district. But the SPTT committee is looking at the legislative agenda for this, for the board, like to present something to you all this week. And so there are several items in there related to compensation and other, ML funding, the multilingual learner funding, to advocate for some of those things that we know are increasing in cost. One of the other, I'll do that as part of the software update. I don't want to get mixed into all my different items. So that's really all I have on the state side. There's not a whole lot to share, but there is some legislation out there we're looking at, and we're keeping our eye on.
So is that a sneak peek to what Michelle's going to share with us? Because I didn't see anything in the agenda with detail. So
Yeah, there are some things in there about several different funding models, the EC funding as well as the ML funding, and compensation and how they structure compensation for teachers and other staff in the state. So yeah.
Any other questions on state budget update? Hearing none, we'll move to finance software update.
So I provided a detail in a high level detail in your packet. I don't know if you all had time to look at it. We're moving right through a lot of this. We're doing a lot of the setup. We're getting a lot of training done, and part of that training is getting the setup done. HR's had their demo, and we are going to continue with our frontline product that we have for the hiring process. And working on integrating, and they're building. I know Jay I can't speak to all of Jay's language, but he is working with his team to build those connections that we have automated for issuing email addresses and those kind of things. So they're working on the back end to start making sure that we have the connection that they need to continue keeping that automated.
thank you for putting the update together for us. I'm really just looking as well, like overall project health, like everything green.
Yes.
Everything's
We're ahead of schedule on some of the payroll and other things, and I think part of that is because we've been through this before. I don't think it's as like we know what to expect, and we're moving ahead and getting ahead of their timelines because we are preparing all the things we know are going to have to be prepared. Some of the challenge that we have right now on the modernization, not really our modernization, but at the state level modernization, is there's the DPI being able to articulate to the software vendors the details of how the communication needs to come back and forth from districts. On our current platforms, we're having some struggles because they've modernized the licensure system as well as some of their accounting systems, and we're not able to submit the adjustments that we normally do on a regular basis. We used to be able to do things that needed to be done to make corrections. Like within a day, you could communicate it back and forth. Right now, we don't have that daily communication. And it's presenting some challenges that we're working through. I've got a meeting this week, but the state modernization has presented more challenges than our local.
okay. I appreciate you having Jay and his team look at like doing a pen test and like looking at the security measures and all that. So
yes, they're
everything looked good
on
there.
calls. We still have a weekly Wednesday call. Anything that comes up or any questions that they have, they participate on. I mean, we're having 2 to 3 calls a week with them. So.
Yeah, I just meant from the IT security. I know that was an
yeah.
issue I brought up last time, so I appreciate you having them dig in on that.
Yep, sure.
Any other questions on the software update? If not, we'll move to the 24 audit closeout.
Yes. So if you all will recall, there was an audit finding from school nutrition budget side. I received a notice from DPI, and we responded to DPI based on that finding, which if you'll all recall, a couple of years ago, we had a finding as well, and DPI follows up. We submitted that we are currently reviewing their budgets on a quarterly basis. Just to ensure that there are not going to be any future budget issues. A lot of what happened with our current year or last year's audit was more about after year end. When the auditors come in, they make entries. So we're going to try to project out to make sure we have sufficient budget in there before year end so that we don't run into that issue again. We received our letter from DPI that closed out that finding satisfactory. satisfactorily. So we're clear on last year's audit. I received this week, Friday, I got our ACFR for review. So I'm going to try to get it reviewed and get it ready so that I can share that with you all as an informational item for the March agenda, and then we can get it posted on our website.
Shauna, how hard would it be to put together something like you did for the software update as we go through our audit, just to keep us informed where you're at, if there's any findings or any concerns until we get that final audit?
Yeah, I can definitely, when they come for compliance, if they find anything that is of concern or issue. The one thing I think that I'm most concerned about this coming year goes back to the conversation about the DPI audit, DPI modernization. Part of our audit is related to how well we utilize our state dollars and our positions, and ensuring that we're not over or under, that we monitor that. Part of that monitoring is the corrections that we make, that we do on that daily basis. And so I would say one of my biggest concerns, and that's what our auditors do when they come here, is they test the utilization of our state funds to ensure that we do that. The ability for us to submit those corrections and monitor that on a regular basis is probably one of my biggest concerns. If it comes out at the end and we haven't had the ability to do all of that work, I just don't want that to result in a finding when it's not really anything that we have control over right now. So if I was to bring anything to your attention at this point, that process is probably one of my most concerning, and that's why we're having all these meetings. We had several meetings. I was at a conference 2 weeks ago. We had multiple meetings with DPI and the software vendors. We had multiple meetings amongst ourselves trying to see if we can figure out how to make this work. We all have serious concerns statewide of how we're going to do this as we get to year end, and time is short. So I will provide you all with an update on that. That's probably our biggest concern right now, is how we're going to be able to monitor and adjust as we get closer to year end. Because
It sounds like you've engaged some other districts as well. How are districts are already on board? How are they getting around this?
They're not. We're all doing. That's what I'm saying. This is a statewide concern. It doesn't matter the software vendor you have. We're all in the same boat, not being able to get that communication that we need to because of the modernization of the licensure system. Being able to make sure that teachers are paid based on their license status. How many years? Is it masters? Is it national board? All those kind of things. So this is a statewide thing. So it will be everyone, it will be most everyone in the state if we end up not being able to find a resolution or a way to work around it. And it's getting closer and closer to year end. So I will definitely keep you all up to date on our progress with that as a separate item.
Okay.
So what is DPI doing? Because if every LEA is having the exact same problem and it's all due to their modernization, shouldn't they be fixing this?
The standard response so far has been that your contract is with your software vendor and we've told them what they need to do. Well, if all software vendors in every district is having the same issue, I don't know how they've done, they basically said, well, we gave them the requirements that they needed to do, this is what they need to do, and it's up to them to make it work. So we're trying to find workarounds, and a lot of this, what I'm finding is a lot of things at DPI are having to be done manually, and they just don't have the manpower to do all this manual work. So I don't know how they are working to resolve it. Plus, any direction they've given us so far it would be at least a month cycle before you would know whether the correction you made fixed, like, did the correction that you submitted work? And did it resolve whatever error there was? And that's not I mean, like I said, we're used to a daily back and forth to see did the error get corrected, because if it remains an error, then we're responsible for the fact that we use something incorrectly, basically, is what they tell us. You know, that's what the error is for. So sometimes it's a tweak of a little something. It's not that we've used anything incorrectly. It's just, that's just part of the process. And until they can resolve that, we're all going to be in a situation where we could have either spent more or not spent enough when it comes to positions or months of employment. It's really about those kind of things that are positions. The dollars could be impacted as well, but we're working hard to find a resolution. I mean, basically, they just said, just send it all in correct to start with. Okay. That's a great resolution. Thank you so much. But it's really not even about that there's an error. Sometimes we have to make corrections because, you know, you get to, something comes up and you need to move someone from state to local or local to state or federal. I mean, you're just making movements like that all year long, and we haven't got a way to do that without it creating chaos. So we're working through it, but that really is, again, all the finance officers in the state are concerned about how we're gonna do this. And when you get close, because we do it all year, like we've been working on, normally you would work through this all year long. And we've not been able to work on it all year. I mean, we've been able to do small things and we've been working through some of it. But when you get to closer and closer to June, like it's a constant. Because really you're trying to make all those things balance and you're balancing it out as the year closes. And so we're gonna do our best to work through it. I think as a team of finance, I mean, there's 115 of us, like hopefully between us, we have several CFO calls, we've got calls with DPI and the vendors. They've got a few, which were included. There's about 4 districts that are going to be part of like the test to try to figure out, can we work through it? Because I have a fantastic team that knows the little tweaks that it takes to send that should clear these things. So we're going to see if we can't get it together and problem solve to make sure that we can get all this work done before year end.
Are we one of those 4 districts?
Yes, we're one of the 4. Yes. So we're part of the districts that are going to work through some of this to see if we can get it resolved.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on last year's audit closeout? Hearing none, the next finance meeting is March 25th at 8 o'clock via Zoom. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.